Good afternoon, everybody. I had a request to do a video on the Florida landscape, so I'm going to do one for you today. I'm just going to do a basic one, nothing too fancy, just to show you some of the tricks on how I do my grasses and work on some of the trees here. Like I said, and it's just going to be a little quick basic tutorial. So to start off, of course you can see the sketch that I just did using vinyl charcoal, which is easy to erase if there's any mistakes. So, and as you can see, I did not go halfway on the canvas. You either want to go higher if you want more landscape, or lower if you're going to use more of show more of the sky. Depending what's more important to you, is it going to be the sky or the landscape? And this painting, it's a little bit of both for me. I just want to show you like an overall picture. So there's going to be a little bit more interest towards the bottom here than there will be in the sky. So this is why I divided the painting the way I did. So to start off with, let me show you my colors that I have on my palette for now. I have Indian yellow, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and white. So this is all I'm going to use for now. And I may introduce cad yellow medium eventually, and perhaps some cerulean blue, or maybe even some burnt sienna, but I'm not quite sure yet. But I'll let you guys know as soon as I get up, once the painting's in progress. Okay, so this is an 8x10 canvas, and I want to fill the canvas up pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a number 10 flat. Actually, it's not a flat, it's a bright. Shorter hair are brights, longer are flats. So this is a bright. I find it very useful if you're using heavy acrylics in order to move the paint around. So I'm going to initially start with a quick wash, which is going to be a little bit of paint with a little bit of paint with a little bit more water. So it's going to be very diluted, and clean up all this white, and then I'll be able to start my painting. So here we go. So for the sky, it's going to be more like a somewhat bluish purplish sky. Oh, and by the way, I'm using acrylics today. So just for those of you who wanted to know. All right, let's start. All right, I'm going to start with some white, ultramarine blue, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Okay. Probably a little bit more blue. From time to time I might show you my palette to see if you can see the colors. This is what I'm putting down here. See, now the paint is very thin. This is just going to serve as a roadmap to where I'm going to progress with this photo, with this painting. Maybe go a little bit more tad blue on this color, and maybe a little bit of burnt umber. I find it to be a little bit too blue, a little bit too pink. Let me see. Okay, this is a little bit better, more of a grayish tone. And what's nice about acrylic, I could go over my paints layer by layer a little quicker than if this were oils. Now, sometimes some of you have seen me when I paint before, that I would start in with my darks first, lay in the background, and then I would go with my colors on top. In this particular situation, it's a little bit different. I just want to start with the sky, and because I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to lay up the trees yet, so I'll just start with the sky, and then I'll just put in my darks right on top of that. Since this is acrylic, it'll dry fast enough that I can do that, versus oils, I probably would have to start with the darks first, mock up the painting, do the sketch before I do any of this. But again, just another advantage of acrylics here. So this is just a quick wash get a notion of what I'm gonna do. So let me see, a little warmer towards the base of the painting. Right now I really don't care what exactly the sky looks like at this very moment. I'm just laying out pretty much, like I said, a roadmap of what's coming. And some of you who are accustomed to me painting know my style, how I work, so this should be nothing new to you. I paint very impressionistic. Alright, warm that up a little bit more, maybe add a tad bit of Indian yellow towards, make that a grayish. By adding yellow to this lavender mix that I have here, it will tone down the purple, make it a little bit more on the grayish side. So, okay. All right. Now, I'm not done with this yet, but I'm gonna I want to get rid of all this white. So here what I'm going to do is start laying out the foundation for the grasses and the background foliage that's going to be back here. So what I'm going to do, since I did not put burnt sienna on my palette and I want to use a limited palette, I'm going to show you how you can do this. If you're out in the field, or let's say for example you forgot your burnt sienna, what you can do to make up for burnt sienna is this. You can make Indian yellow with alizarin crimson, more yellow than red, and then add a little bit of blue will give you like a sienna color, or you could add burnt umber with that. So let me show you how that's done while we're at it. So I'm going to use, let me show you this, cad yellow, a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit more maybe, make it a reddish tone. Now I could either go burnt umber or I could go with a little bit of blue, but let me go with a little bit of blue because the reason why I say that is going to be some grasses down there, so maybe a little bit of green. So here we go, maybe a little bit of blue, ultramarine blue. Now watch what you get. You see this color that you're getting there? Almost like a burnt sienna, not quite, but which is okay, and it's very diluted. Very diluted. Okay, this is just a wash. I'm adding more. This is basically like a glaze or wash if you want. I'm adding a lot more water. There's a lot more water in here to this paint, and just so I can get this transparent, look. There you go. Try to make a straight line. Voila. Now I got all this white out of the way. So now I can start going back to the sky and laying out what I want. So let me see. You see, already dry. So, well, this I know is not dry, just to show you. Almost. It's tacking up already. All right, so basically I got a road map. I know this is going to be a warm bottom. Now I'm going to work on the sky a little bit more, and I'm probably going to add some clouds like in a reddish tone. I did a couple paintings just recently of the Payne's Prairie, and well, a depiction of the Payne's Prairie. Let me just be a little bit more accurate with that. And this is going to be another one of those paintings, just varying the landscape a little bit. So now I'm going down to a number 8 flat. Now this is a nice brush. This is by Brislan Silver series, and this is also a bright became one of my favorites here. Now the reason why I went to a smaller brush is because I'm going to be working on the clouds, and some of the work is going to be a little bit tighter around here. Okay, so I will need a smaller brush. The big brush was just to lay out the massive colors first, so I could work a little faster. Since this is an acrylic and it's going to dry fast, you want to use your biggest brush available for the size canvas that you have. Otherwise, things are going to dry up on you really fast and you get frustrated and you're going to hate acrylics like I used to a long time ago, until I learned what I was doing wrong. So just letting you know that. Don't get frustrated. Just be loose with your painting and give it a go. All right. So now let's work on the sky. So now I'm going to use a little bit of alizarin crimson, more white, maybe a little bit of burnt umber in that mix to tone down the alizarin crimson, as you can see here. Maybe just a hint of ultramarine blue. There you go, more white. All right, let's see what that gives us. Maybe a little bit more alizarin crimson. That's too much of a salmon color. I want a little bit more red in this. That works. Okay. Now I'm being free here and loose and just making this up as I go. Put some a little bit everywhere. And what I don't like, I can eventually erase. Now, I did the first coat really thin. Now I'm adding, basically what I'm doing here is working in thin layers, okay? And just building up the color as I go along. So you will see some of this blue showing through, which is fine, which is what I want. And cause it just gives that painting, whoa, blooper. Just gives that painting a little bit more character. A little bit more red towards the bottom. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Name of the brush again, please. Oh, okay. This is a Brislan. I don't know if you can see it really well. It's a Brislan, the Silver series, and it's a number 8. And it's a bright, shorter hair, not long. Okay. The canvas is a 8 by 10. So I'm working on a small canvas here. Which is what I usually do a lot of the time. So now, okay, the reason why I started on the clouds before going back up to the skies and then putting the clouds on top of the sky, now because this is a little bit lighter, I will be able to gauge how dark or how light and toned down I want the sky. Okay, so now I'm going to work on this part and probably add on to this. As you can see, you will see throughout the painting that I will probably change my mind a lot or feather in more color or add more and more layers until I get what I want. Okay, I'm not magical, you know, I'm not to the point where I know exactly where this painting is going to go. No, I never really know where the painting is going to go. I just go with it, you know, until I like it. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. You know, it's just part of the process. You just got to be able to accept what you got sometimes and roll with it. So here we go. So now I'm doing some ultramarine blue with a little bit of burnt umber. Okay, I added these two together. So I'm going to see what I have here. Maybe I might add a hint. And when I say hint, there you go, of alizarin crimson. Because alizarin crimson is a very powerful color. It has a very strong tinting strength. Now look at that. See how the colors now, how it just brings out the clouds a little bit more. And this is why I, do it in steps and layers. Excuse me. And then, I ad-lib, put colors where I feel it needs. I'm gonna have to do this a little bit heavier. When I say heavier, I'm just gonna add more color, thicker paint, because I'm having to mix a little too often here. All right, let's see. Well, it's almost the same. Now remember, with acrylics, you think you're gonna match the same color, but acrylics dry darker than what you lay down because of the polymer resin. That's their binder. It's an opaque color, and as the opacity fades away, the color is darker. And if I'm not happy with this guy, once I'm done with it, no worries. I could change it. You know what? I want it a little bit darker. Let me see. Well, let me finish it first. One thing. Let me go probably a little bit more blue. Okay. Now, Josiah just asked, when you're applying the clouds, are you dry brushing? Not really. There's actually a little bit of water on my brush to thin down the color. Otherwise, it's just going to be very choppy, and I wouldn't be able to move the paint that easily. So I am adding water to the color. Not that much, maybe like 10% water to the mix. Paint to water ratio, just 10% of it is water, just enough to make the medium move. That's all it is. Oh, hello, Teresa. How you doing? I'm glad to see some of you were able to join now. I made no advertisement about this. It's just I just wanted to paint on a whim here, so I just thought I'd start. And if you didn't get a chance, I know everybody's working, the video will be up soon, and you could fast forward through all the talking and straight to the painting. So now I'm working towards the base of the cloud, and ooh, white, more white, and I'm liable to change all this. And if I didn't get to your question, not because I'm ignoring you, it's just hard to do both at the same time, and I will do my best to entertain your question as I go along. I know some of you must be thinking, man, this guy's just like all over the place with this, with these brush strokes. Yes, I am. It's just the way I paint until I find what pleases me. All right, probably add a little bit more color to the base of the clouds here. And this cloud is a little bit too big. I might have to break this up a little bit. Yes, I'm gonna break this up a little bit. And it's okay if part of the cloud is still showing. And I'm not really trying to shoot for the same colors, just see what works for me and then move along. I'm still playing with the colors here with the alizarin crimson and white. I'm going to give this cloud formation some variety. I know it kind of looks crazy, but you'll see in the end. I can feel the paint starting to tack up on me a little bit, so I just added a little bit more medium. And when I say medium, that I add a little bit more medium, it's not a retarder or anything like that. When I say medium, is basically water. I'm adding a little bit of water to make the paint a little bit more fluid. That's all I'm doing. And the reason why I'm doing this part also, is basically just to blend everything kind of to match the atmosphere that I'm giving. All right, like I said, it's gonna be pretty impressionistic here. And I know I'm spending a little bit of time with the cloud system, but I just have to get this right before I start on the rest, because otherwise what's going to happen is I'm going to have to paint around structures, and I really don't feel like doing that, and it's just going to take a lot of time in this video, and I don't know what everybody's attention span is. See if you really want to wait to see what's going to happen. All right, okay. So now I'm going to move on with a smaller brush, and I'm going to work on the highlights a little bit. So it's going to be alizarin crimson, maybe a touch of Indian yellow, and white. Let me put some more white on my palette. Oh, never mind, that's not it. Oh. Very good, titanium white. Covers very well. I've been pleased with Golden's products. No complaints here. Although a lot of their colors are a little bit more on the transparent side, which works for me. Reason is, I just showed you I paint in layers, so it kind of works to my advantage. Now, somebody was just asking me if I'm using dry colors. Now I'm using semi-dry colors, yes. And that was an earlier question. And the reason is I want to give that feathered blend effect. A little bit kind of rough. All right, yes, starting to come out. Now I'm adding just a little bit of water, and the only reason I'm doing that on my palette, see, is just so that it doesn't dry up on me, because this will tack up and then I have to mix a whole new mix, and I don't feel like doing that. So I'm just adding a little bit of water, and then just using kind of like C strokes. Maybe a little bit more alizarin crimson. And you see now the importance of why I did it in layers, and I just went color on top of color on top of color, and I did not keep it uniform, because now you're starting to see some of the earlier colors, some of the earlier blues that I laid down popping through some of the purple, because right here it's a little bit more blue, and you can see some of the purple lavender colors that are right on top of it. So it gives your eye this effect of this optical effect, almost like the Impressionists, what they did when they laid one color next to each other, making you think, like for example, they would put blue and yellow like next to each other, and your eyes would almost mix the colors together and make it look like it's green. So the sky is really not that purple. There's spots of it that are blues in there. So I'm just doing an optical effect is all it is, tricking your eye into thinking that this is almost like a uniform color, which it's not. All right, let me just put a little bit more, like maybe a cloud here somewhere. Ooh, that is too strong. If you find the color is too strong and too light, then just add more of the color. Okay, that was not a good idea. So if you don't like a color, just remove it. What I did was clean my brush with water and went over it, so it makes it look white. But now what I'm going to do is use some alizarin crimson, a little bit of white, a little bit of burnt umber just to tone down the red. You know what? Alright, I just got myself into a little jam here. A little bit of alizarin crimson again. I got to make a whole new mix. Sometimes I get carried away and this is what happens. Let me go for a little bit of ultramarine blue to mix this together. So I'll mix like a light purplish color. Let me see now. Maybe a little bit more alizarin crimson because it's the lower part of the sky, a little bit further back. There you go. And it's going to dry a little bit darker, so there. Now that works. Oh, no problem. Oh, thank you. I hope this is kind of entertaining for you. I guess you get to see all my mistakes too while you're at it. Sometimes I make it look easy, but no, it's not always easy. All right. So now I'm going to work on a background tree line. That's going to go right here. And then I'm going to work my way down. And the trees are probably going to be the last. I guess what a lot of people are interested in seeing is how I do the grass. The grasses and the brushes that I use, believe it or not, the grasses, sometimes I just use this, you know, a filbert or flat, and then later on we'll go with this little what number is this? Anyway, just a small fan brush to show you how the grass is going to be. And the grass is going to be done in layers too. You'll see how the magic happens. Okay, enough talking. Let's go to the painting. All right. So, where was I? Okay, let's work on a background tree. So I'm going to do alizarin crimson. I'm sorry, not alizarin crimson. Ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber. Maybe a hint of Indian yellow. A little bit of white. Okay, that's a little bit too green. Let me show you the color. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. This is the color that I'm mixing here. It's a little bit too green, so because it's going to be a little bit more distance, I'm going to give it a little bit more ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber. And if the color's not right, I could always go back over it. Okay, so I'm not going to cry here over spilled milk. Let me see if this works out. Yeah, that works. And if I don't like it, I can change it. I'm not beholden to that color. Just, you know, give indication. Of background. Maybe a little bit more blue. And as the colors recede, I'll add more blue and white. See how it looks like darker? As I go further away, I add a little bit more white and it recedes. Just kind of shows you you're going at a distance here. I know it kind of looks a little bit sloppy, but I'm not too worried or concerned about that for now. And the nice thing, like I said with acrylics, you could just go back over it. Now let me go and add a little bit more ultramarine blue and Indian yellow on top of this. Maybe a little bit of white just to show like some highlights, some warm highlights off the top of these trees here. All right, here we go. Let's see. Yeah, that could work. Maybe a little bit more yellow, a little bit more white. Just along the treetops. Here. And here, let me just finish that before I change the subjects on you. Okay, now I want to make a little gap here between these tree lines and show like trees that are a little bit further behind. So if you ever get into this in the midst of your painting, you're like, these painting. Now remember, the darker the color, the closer it will seem. The more closer it will seem. Okay, instead of further back. So if I want to push, now that I got this color on there, and I say to myself, you know what? These look a little bit too close and a little bit too big. So okay, so how do I solve that? I could use a little bit more blue, ultramarine blue, a little bit of white, maybe a little bit of burnt umber, and push some pockets a little bit further back. So let me demonstrate that for you. This is just purely just to, you know, show you guys what's possible. Okay, see now, there you go. This is, I don't know if you're able to see on the camera, but it's actually pushing some of that color back. Let me add a little bit more blue perhaps. Let me see, probably might be a little bit too, there you go. I like the color. More blue, maybe a little bit of burnt umber to tone down that blue. Yes, that works a little bit better. Push that color, push those back a little bit, certain pockets. There you go. So what this does is just shows like some are forward, some are back as far as tree line goes. And then some of it, I'm actually going right over some of the work that I just did. Just depends what I'm trying to bring forward and what I'm not. So now I'm using a little bit more burnt umber and a ultramarine blue, a little bit darker mixture, and bring back some forward because I didn't want too much in the back. Bring some of it back forward. Maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson would probably be helpful in some of this. There you go. I introduced a little bit of alizarin crimson to the mix as well. Okay, there you go. Maybe, let me see, work on that tree line a little bit more. Yeah, that works. So Indian yellow again, I used with a little bit more white, a little bit of ultramarine blue. I'm using the corner of my brush. I'm still using This is a number 2 filbert. The paint, I was kind of dry brushing, but it's a little bit too dry. So I'm just adding a little bit of water, go on top of these tree line, and just, you know, lightly pressing. Okay. Enough with that. Now onto the landscape. All right, now we're going to get into the grassy parts. So, like I said, now you can see I have Indian yellow is basically what I'm going to be using for now. So if I want lighter colors, if I want brighter yellows, then I will start introducing the cad yellow medium. Okay, this is more of a transparent, semi-transparent. So I'm going to go with the transparent color and go all the way back here. Give it like some light in the grass here. So a lot of white. And I'm basically using pure Indian yellow. Using the corner of my brush. Okay. Oops, sorry. There you go. Let me see how that works out. Just there. Maybe a little bit of burnt umber, so it's not too strong of a yellow. A lot of white, and add some water because the paint is a little bit lightly going across. As you can see here, I have not really shown any particular details of the grass, which I would do this sometimes. Just blend. There you go. This is what I do. That's all I do. Maybe add a little bit of ultramarine blue for the back. Very so gives it a little bit of greenish tinge. Now notice I didn't paint everything. There's some of the background that's showing. Perfect. That's what I want. Basically, this is what you call broken colors. And I'm using very thin colors in this, and I will vary my mixture. Now I'm going a little bit more yellow, more Indian yellow. Okay. All right. So now let's map this out a little bit. The trees are going to be right here, so let's give it a little bit more interest. Let's make a little dark color patches here and there. And you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using ultramarine blue. This is the color I mixed. Ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, a little bit of burnt umber, and just a little bit of white because it's mainly in the distant and I don't want to be too dark. Let's give some darks here and there, and you'll see the reasoning behind that in a few minutes as I go along. In order for you to see light, you need something dark. And let's make a little bit more on the greener side down here as we're going along. So now I'm adding some alizarin crimson you know what, I'm gonna use my bigger brush for this because it's gonna take forever. All right, here we go. I'm using alizarin, a little bit of alizarin crimson, burnt umber, and ultramarine blue, and some Indian yellow here. Make it more of a green. Let me go burnt umber a little bit. And watch what I'm going to do. Give it more of a wash. And I'm going to continue with that. Make it even a little bit darker. I could use I could use alizarin crimson, but I'm not. Just showing you, you know, you can make the same dark colors. Yeah, let's make a little dark patch here. It's gonna be a little dark patch of grass. A little bit light, gives it like the point towards the trees, and we'll work on that afterwards. At first this doesn't make too much sense, but you will see how in the end it will. Actually, a little bit of alizarin crimson to make it a little bit warmer. So there you go, just add a little bit of grass. And you see that I've used like a whole bunch of different strokes here. All right, back to working on the grass. All right, let's see. Let's start adding some of the highlights. And the reason why I didn't add the tree yet, because I want to finish with the grass in the back here first before adding the tree. Okay, because otherwise it's gonna make it hard to try to make the highlights in the back here with the trees in the way. So let's work on that. So let's go for a little bit more of pure color. So I'm going with Indian yellow. And that was another thing I forgot to tell you. I make all these colors a little bit on the grayish side. And the reason why is once I add highlights to this by using pure colors, they will pop out at you a little bit more. Okay, so let me show you that. So here we go. Yeah, that works. There's probably gonna be some time soon to add some cad yellow medium here. So just very liquidy, very thin coat, and I'm actually using water. No, I'm gonna have to use some cad yellow medium here to do this and lighten this up a little bit more. This is Winsor Newton Artist Acrylics. And some of you have heard me before saying that Winsor Newton makes a clear binder, polymer binder. And what that does is the color that you get when you put down, the color that you put down is what you're going to get in the end, meaning there will be no color shift. It's just the reason why I don't use it as often is they're readily not available every single time at my local Jerry's. So I just grab what I can. Okay, so now let me change some mixture. I'm gonna use a little bit of alizarin crimson. Now you guys are gonna see me jumping a little bit everywhere here on the grasses, because the grasses, it's not a particular formula that I use to make grasses, okay? So bear with me and just watch and go along with this. And I'll tell you the mixture that I'm using, because these grasses don't have a particular formula, okay? When you look at them in the, on the fields in the prairie. Here what I'm doing is I'm using alizarin crimson, burnt umber, and a lot of white. Okay, and I'm just thinly, just barely washes here and there. That's all I'm doing, just washes. This is how I do my grasses, just wash upon wash upon wash. Just like, not wash, I'm sorry, let me reiterate that. Glazing is what I'm doing. Wash is when the wash is when I initially put the colors down. Glazing is when I'm just putting one color on top of another color to get a different effect. Go a little bit more orange here and there. Okay. Add some greens here maybe. Ultramarine blue and cad yellow medium. And all this, I'm still using fan brush, just going a little bit different direction because the strokes are going to show. Your strokes are going to show, and it'll give a viewer a sense of direction. I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying here. Sometimes I'm using the corner, sometimes I'm just using the edge of the brush up and down, or sometimes I'm just using, straight up and down strokes like this. But you'll see. More color. Maybe a little bit more alizarin crimson. Some darker greens. And I'm letting some of the background color show through. Sorry if I missed some of the questions. One second, otherwise my phone is going to die on me. Let me put on the charger here. There we go. Clear binder. Yeah, clear binder. I guess somebody was just asking a question. One of the viewers was asking about the binder. The binder is what holds the paint together. Okay, when they put the paint in the tube, you got the pigment, and you got the binder that keeps the pigment together. That's what holds it together. Now, some of them use an opaque, like kind of a whitish binder. When that binder dries, as it dries, it becomes clear. So initially, when you put the paint down, it's a lot lighter than what the actual color is. And as the binder dries, it turns clear, which will show you the true color of the paint. That's why it shifts from dark to light. From light to dark, I'm sorry. Now, what Winsor & Newton did, instead of putting an opaque white binder, which holds the paint together, they used a clear one. So the color that you lay down, once the binder is dry, it's already clear. So there is no color shift. It will not go from light to dark. It will stay the color that you put on there. So, all right. Yeah, now, so I hope you kind of understood what I was saying about that. So let me continue with, and to make these dark greens, if you want your greens to be nice and dark, you could use ultramarine blue, Indian yellow, and a little bit of alizarin crimson will give you a nice dark green. As you can see right here, the difference. Add some down here, darken this color up a little bit. Make some of these greens. You know what? I'm going to introduce cerulean blue. Okay, to this. It's going to give me some brighter greens. All right, so let me wash my brush off a little bit. And I'm going to do some of the highlights. The white sawgrass. Hold on, let me finish this up a little bit. This is what's nice about acrylic. You could lighten and darken colors at will at a very short order. Not like oils, which would have been a little bit hard to do this. All right. So this is just for visual interest. And let me add a little bit of cerulean blue, cad yellow medium. Let's make some of these bright greens here. And this is still thin, believe it or not. I'm still using a thin mixture, meaning I'm using a lot of water to put some of these colors down. Like I said, it's a wash, just to give it visual, just to give the eye some kind of visual interest. I'm giving you like a little bit of information only. I don't want to give you too much information. Just enough for your brain to depict that, hey, you know, there's highlights here, there's some kind of a tree back here. It's all about tricking the brain into thinking, you know, what you want it to believe. So I'm using cerulean blue right now as the mixture that I'm using, with a little bit of Indian yellow and some white, which will give it like this grayish mixture. And the reason why I want this grayish mixture, because you're in Florida, grass is kind of dead out in these prairies. It's dry. So I want to give it that effect of dry grass. Not everything's bright and green over there. So I don't know if you've been to Florida prairies or seen, you know, landscapes, but that's how it is over here. And I know some of you were from Texas, so I guess you can relate, especially north central Florida. You can relate to this too. So now let's make some grasses. I'm going to use cad yellow, a lot of white, maybe a little bit of burnt umber to gray it down a little bit. This is the point that some people wonder, like, how I do it. I use the edge of the brush up and down randomly. Watch. Sometimes I use it like this, sometimes I move it around like that. And if it's too bright, if the color is too bright, if it pops too much, I will show you how to tone that down. I could just glaze right over it. And be mindful of the direction of the strokes. The reason why I say that is because right here I'm trying to lead you somewhere in a painting. I'm trying to lead you because there's going to be trees here. So I'm going to lead your eyes towards the trees that are going to be here. So if the paint's not moving, it's drying up on you, keep adding water. Let me show you the palette. As you can see, it's pretty thin, okay? And that's what I want, because I want this paint to move a little bit. Up and down strokes, really fast. Change your strokes, change the direction. You know, the grass is not all in one direction. They go all over the place. Just be gentle. Don't put too much force. Okay? You don't need to... If I want to add some blades, I could use the corner of the brush. Lightly. Lightly just go along. And if it's... Let me see, maybe... make a little bit more orange in this respect here. If it doesn't glide, more water. There you go. Because it seems like it's a little bit too twigs, you know, here and there. Notice all this, how I hold my brush. Sometimes I go broadside. Sometimes I go, you know, the edge to make little individual leaves, strands of grass. So you don't have to have a liner. You could use what you have. It's all about using the tools, your tools, all right, to your advantage. Ow. It's all about using the tools to your advantage here. Okay. Am I using a reference photo? I was using a reference photo. Yes, I did look at a picture, but now I'm doing it from memory. From time to time, I'll go over the reference photo because here's another thing about reference photo. You don't have to be prisoner to a reference photo. You don't have to make everything the way you see it in the reference photo, okay? The thing is, this is part of the creativity process. You could add or subtract from the picture and just put what you like to see. All right, there's some things I didn't like in the picture. Okay, well, I'll change it. I'll put something else, you know. There are more trees here, but this is a small painting. There's only so much your eyes are going to look at in a small painting. So the best policy is keep the painting simple, especially if you have a small canvas. If it's a larger canvas, I could understand, you know, add a lot more things. But this is a small painting. Keep it simple. Keep the viewer interested by not bogging down their mind. It's like somebody's talking too much to you, you know. At some point, you just tune off. You're like, okay, well, you know, I've heard too much. My brain is like getting fried here just listening to this. Maybe like me right now talking to you. I may be frying your brains for all I know with all this talking. But I'm just trying to teach you something, that's all. So a little bit more reddish grass, but this is just because I'm trying to teach you my process on how I go about doing my paintings. But like I said, a painting is like a conversation, storytelling. Let the viewer make up their own mind, you know, or let them ask questions. Let them immerse themselves into your painting and to this journey that you're leading them, you know. If you give them too much information, then it's at some point it's like, okay, well, I know already too much. I'm not really interested now, you know. I know a little bit more than what I really wanted to know. Okay, I'm kind of happy with the grass situation right now. Maybe a little bit of red back here. There you go. I could add a little water back here, but I've already done that with the other paintings, so I'm not. Okay, now the trees. Here's another little nifty trick for the trees. I use chalk to draw in or sketch where I want things to be. I could leave this alone and call it a painting, but this is not what I want. I want, you know, Florida would not be Florida without a nice, beautiful sable palm somewhere, or grouping of sable palms. So let's see what we have. Let me see if I could take some questions here. Do you sometimes use permanent green? Corinne, well, not all the time. I do have the color on hand, but I don't always use it because I can mix the color. You know, this is a nice thing about a limited palette. You get to know the colors a lot better, meaning that you learn the colors by mixing. And now I could be lazy and just say, you know, I just pull out the sap green so I don't have to mix anything. But the problem with that is that the color is so uniform, I don't think it would give too much interest. So by mixing and varying the tone and the shade of the color on my palette will give me more interest and more harmony on the painting, because not everything is the same. The color changes a little bit from here to there, you know, so it's not too uniform. That's the problem. When something is too uniform, then it's just like, it's flat. But when your brain sees a variation, your brain will catch on to all these variations, making the paintings more interesting and more in harmony. So I hope that I explained that good enough. Otherwise, let me know. Let me see. I'm just scamming through the questions here, see if I can, some that I have not answered. Is the paint expensive? Well, I'm using Golden and Liquitex, and it can be expensive. Now the thing is, it doesn't have to be expensive. I go to either Jerry's Artorama, which is a big box. Oh, sorry, which is a big box art retailer, wholesaler. The paints are a lot cheaper over there. Now, if you don't have a Jerry's Artorama, or you don't feel like going online, I'm sure a lot of you have a Michaels close to you. Now, Michaels carry Winsor & Newton, and they carry Golden, and they always have coupons, and I always take advantage of those coupons. So it doesn't come out, you know. And plus, I'm doing a lot of small paintings. So this tube, so far, I've had this tube more than 2.5 years now. I haven't even finished it. So they go a lot further for me. All right, so I buy in big tubes. They go a lot further. And, you know, I've had this one for 5 years. Okay, I don't use that much of cadmium red, you know, medium really. I use a lot of alizarin crimson, but still, sometimes I use it. It just goes a long way because these are very pigmented, high quality paint, so they go further, and you don't have to put too much paint on your palette to get what you want. So expensive, so-so. All right, let me see. All right, let me go down to the next question. Oh, you got, who is it? Curry's in Canada? Is great for coupons and sales. Oh, well, Michaels is what we have down here in Florida. Michaels and Jerry's Artorama, or Dick Blake. Dick Blake and Jerry's are, you know, competitors. Their prices are almost the same. So whoever you have close to you, you should go to. So now, like I was saying, here's a trick that I use chalk in order to lay out my sketch. And if I don't like it, I could erase it very easy. Chalks will not stay, okay? So I wanted to do a grouping of trees right around here. I'm just gonna, you know, make quick circles just to see what works for me. They're probably a little bit too high. See how chalk erases? It even erases a lot better with water. So let me see. Probably make them lower. See, now had I done this with paint, I would have been like, oh man. Let's see, just a cluster of trees is what I'm gonna make here. All right, that's a little bit more fitting. Okay, because I did it too high and I gave the trees too much interest versus the whole painting. So what's nice about chalk, I was able to erase the mistake and redo it. Now I could add more trees here, but I'm not. And I don't want to go too much towards the middle. Okay, you don't want to do that. You want to stay within the rules of thirds. Okay, so there's a lot of visual interest here in that quadrant. I'm probably gonna, you know, we have a lot of fences on our prairie sometimes. I might add maybe either a broken fence right here, more like staggered in this fashion so that your eyes go in, straight line feeds you right back into the drawing. So remember, these are ways to, you know, like right here, this right there will lead you to the trees. If I do another fence, same thing. You get like that zigzag visual effect. So maybe I'll put one tree a little bit bigger than the rest of them. And then bring that one down. Yeah, I like that. You see, I hope you guys can see that. How do you open old tubes that refuse to open? Okay, well, two ways. Let me show you. I have a tube here. This one always sticks on me. So instead of going like you want to open it counterclockwise, what I do is turn it clockwise and it will pop it open, and then counterclockwise again, and it will open easily. This one actually was just stuck. Even though I just used it a few minutes ago, it was stuck. So I turn it clockwise, okay, and then counterclockwise to loosen it. Otherwise, use pliers and they'll open without breaking. I haven't had a problem so far. And when I close it, don't close it all the way tight. Give like one little turn like that. So when you turn it clockwise, you have room to twist and then twist off. Just a little tip. All right, now for the trees. All right. Now this usually is a scary part for me because now I have a finished background. I better not screw this up. So I'm using a burnt umber, alizarin crimson. I need to put more blue down. Another big tube of, they last you a long time. Ultramarine blue. To give it this brownish color. Now I got to be mindful of what I do here. All right, so it's a little bit too dark. Let me see, maybe if by adding a little bit of yellow. There you go. It gives it a little bit of distance. Maybe I should even use cerulean blue. That grays down the colors a little bit. One here. A little bit of red. I should be able to fix it. If there's something I don't like, I'm just trying to do a grouping of trees here. And I'm varying the mixture as well, meaning I don't stay with one uniform formula of the colors that I'm mixing. Sometimes I'm adding a little bit more red, like I just am doing here. You see, I'm adding more red. Let's add a little bit more blue. A little bit more burnt umber, more ultramarine blue, and umber again, and a little bit more red. All right, make it a little bit darker. Here's a tree that's a little bit taller than the rest. One that's a little bit slanted. Here, let's make their trees various sizes. There you go. I'm happy with that. Maybe I'll add one loner back here. Apparently he was not accepted in the group, so they casted him aside. Poor thing. All right. And I'm using my filbert. Sorry, I had to plug the battery again. I don't know what's going on. Oh, here we go. Sorry. Alrighty. And I will do the tree trunks right after. Alright, now that I've got that, I'm going to give these trees I'm not going to go too much into details because they're not big trees. I'm just going to give you an impression of details, meaning I'm not going to use too much of my liner brush to make, you know, more of the little leaves. I'm actually going to stick with the filbert here and there. Okay, so here I'm going to glaze some green on top of these to give it, you know, various amount of colors, and then I'm going to work my way up to the highlights right after that. Oh, and another thing, remember what I said you could erase chalk? Now I just use my brush with a little bit of water on here. Watch this. Once I'm done with doing my sketch, bye bye, bye bye, see you later, don't need you anymore. Boom. Who's your daddy? There you go. You see what I mean? And it doesn't bother the rest of your painting. Everything is already dry. So that's just a little tip for the day. Buy yourself if you're going to do acrylics, it's handy to have a chalk around, especially white chalk. Or if you don't have chalk and you have like a pastel, like a white pastel, soft pastel pencil, that works too, because you can bring that to a very sharp point and it helps you. Okay. Let's see, any more questions? Okay. All right. Now on to the trees. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah. So let's start adding a little bit of the highlights. Now I'm going to vary my greens by using here and there. I'm going to use, you know, between ultramarine blue and cad yellow medium, and using cerulean blue with the same color, and then using the Indian yellow. It's just, right now I'm just using, it's not showing up too much. I was using cerulean blue and Indian yellow. Let me add a little bit of white to that so it'll show. There you go. So here we go. It's all about knowing how to use. The reason why I use this filbert, because of the round edges and some of the filament, as you lay down the paint, the hair will split, making it look like you actually have individual palm fronds. So that's just a little trick. And I'm not adding too much water. That's the other key, because if I add water to this, then it will be too, how should I say, the paint will come off too, it will not come out as fuzzy. It'll come out too, how should I say, hard lines. The lines will be a little bit too hard. Okay. I want a little bit of that feathered edge. And I'm using just faint brush strokes here and there. And you will see why. I'm just interpreting the trees here. Just showing you form. All right, so now I just put like a little bit of a hot. Hold on. Let me add some cad yellow medium. Ran out of my palette. Some of it dried. And watch the magic happen here. All right, cad medium with a little bit of cerulean, but more yellow. Add more white. Now remember to compensate. If the color looks too light to you, remember it will darken as it dries. So, see, adding highlights here. And if it's too green, which right now I think it's a little bit too green, I'm gonna add more yellow. And if it's too yellow, I can glaze over with a different color. I just added some alizarin crimson to that mixture. All right. Now I'm going to go into some ultramarine blue with that same mixture, make it a dark green. And I may eventually go with my liner brush to show you some brush work here. All I did right here was just glaze. That's all I did. All right, liner brush now. We're going to do some strokes. Some palm strong. Okay. Watch it happen. All right. So now I've kind of detailed some background tree, forward tree. And the reason why you can tell this is forward tree is because I put some highlights on top of this right here. Although this is all one cluster of one color, I was able to depict that cluster by just adding the highlights where I think, you know, it's another tree. Like this one is a small tree, but it's below this patch of trees, so it's going to stay probably dark. Okay, so all right, now let's work with the highlights here. Cerulean blue and cad yellow. Sorry for all the noise. My wife decided she wanted to vacuum. All right, palm fronds. A little bit, you know, vary where your palm fronds are going to go. And I may even add sky holes. Some of you have heard me say sky holes before. And for those of you who haven't seen those, I will show you. Right now, all I'm doing is depicting the edges. Maybe a little bit of if the color starts sticking, add more water. Oh man. All right. Let me make another little adjustment here. I hope you guys can hear me. So let me see. Cad yellow, alizarin crimson, and burnt umber. You know, sometimes you have these dead fronds. Just trying to take out some of these edges here. As you can see, this is a little bit of a long process. All right. And if there's something I don't like, all right, if there's something I don't like, here's what I'm going to do. Use a wide brush, add color. You see? Just glaze over it. So what that's going to do for me is take off some of these hard edges. And let me use ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and some white to give like a grayish color. And what that's going to be for is those dead fronds that you see here sometimes. Dead palm fronds. More in the orange. Smoothing out. Maybe you need to add a little bit more water. It's a little bit too dry of a mixture. And what this does is graze down some of the hard highlights. Now you see how it fades the trees a little bit. Now for the fun part. Let's make the trunks. Now you see, had I done all this background after doing all these darks, it would have been very complicated and not fun at all. Okay. For the trunks, so we're gonna give the trunk a little bit of, I'm not gonna make them too dark. Gonna make it in kind of a grayish, let me see. We're gonna use cad yellow, alizarin crimson, maybe a little bit of cerulean blue, some white. It's gonna give like this grayish color. Okay. Sorry, I had to mix these colors together here. Okay. Why is your water yellow? Which water? Because I didn't place any water anywhere on this painting. If you're talking back here, that's not water. This is all grass. It's basically highlighted, you know, because I'm going to give this painting a little bit of interest later. Actually make a little bit more yellowish grass coming along this way, so to keep your eyes in focus. If I wanted to add water, it would be in ultramarine blue, and I would have just added it across right here. But there's no water, so I don't know. Okay. Yeah, you could use a nutcracker to open up an old paint bottle, an old paint tube. Yes, you're right about that. All right, let me go back to painting the tree trunks. All right. This is where it gets fun. All right, let's Now that will darken up a little bit, so it might look like it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm giving it kind of a purplish gray tone here. Now notice the trunks, this one is a little bit further behind. If your paint's not moving, add water. Important. Now don't make all the trunks uniform as far as they all go the same way. So there's some back here. And we're going to add highlights to some of them. Actually, now if I wanted to show that these trees were a little bit further back, I would have eliminated these trunks and made it only to this height. But I kind of want some of them close. And if you don't like it, put water on your brush. If the paint's still not dry, erase. Erase. Oops, I took out some of the color here. That's okay. Okay, just to show like these two trees are going to be a little bit further back. This one too. This one too. Before the paint really dries. So that was just another trick. If you made a mistake, add water to your paintbrush and rub over it. And then dab some of the water off. Don't scrape it off. Dab it off. And I could fix this without a problem. Let me do that now, so I don't have any problems later. Let me see. Cad yellow. Ooh, too much red. Add a little more yellow, a little bit of white. Yellow and alizarin crimson. Let me see. There you go. Crisis averted. Let me add a little bit more yellow to this. Maybe a little bit of short grasses. Yay! All right. Let me fix this grass a little bit more here. Yellow, white. I'm just trying to show you what happens when you have to fix something that you made a mistake. Okay. Just to show you it's not the end of the world. You could always ad lib. There. That works. Okay. Now you saw how to rectify a mistake. All right, let me go back to my mixture to make these tree trunks. Okay. All right. this bad boy right here. Here, that works. So now let me add some highlights here and there to some of these trees. Add a little bit of yellow. I'm using ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and a lot of white. Actually, I'm going to add more white. Let me see, maybe a little bit of Indian yellow to this mixture. Here's the mixture that I'm making right here. See how very liquidy it is? Maybe a touch of Indian yellow to warm it up. Twist the brush to a fine point. All right, let's work on some of the highlights. May need a little bit of red in here too, to give like this really light orangey. She's funny. Now, you don't have to highlight the tree all the way down, just here and there where you think some of the light might be touching. Oh, I forgot to give this bad boy even though I use the highlights, it's okay. I'll show you how to fix this. Selected highlights. Okay. Let me add more white. You know, basically just some spots where the sun is actually catching the tree. Okay. Now I'm going to give some shade. We're almost done with this. We're going to make some shade below these palm fronds. So I'm going to use ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and I'm going to glaze some darks. Let me see if I can. Yes, this is an acrylics. Let me take some questions right here before you finish. Thank you, Judith. Thanks for that compliment. All right, so here I'm adding, it's probably too much liquid, too liquidy. A little bit of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. Make a little dark wash here. Actually needs to be more blue. Let me add a little bit more white to this. Here we go. Because remember, it's cool. It's cool. This is all warm color, and I'm gonna put some cool shades, not highlights, but some cool colors, because the trees are in partial shade. So by adding this blue, I can, how should I say? I'm working the warm and cool colors against each other here. Let me actually I need a little bit more red. Make it a little bit more purplish. Let me put some more alizarin crimson in this. Now you see what goes into a painting. Normally I paint a little bit faster than this. It's just because I have to explain step by step what I'm doing, so you could better understand the process, because I know sometimes it's not always easy to understand the process when you're just showing progress photos and I'm writing something down. This is actually where you can visually see what I'm doing. And if it's too dark, I can actually lighten it up a little bit. Yeah, I should have done that. Yes, a little bit more white, a little bit of burnt umber to gray this down. There you go. That's matching a little bit more. The colors are not so harsh. And we're almost done with this. Bear with me. Now see this trunk here, the highlight? You could barely see it, just fade. So what I'm going to do is going to give some of this same thing here for this little fellow. And you too, my friend, you get some highlights too. And the reason why I'm using a little bit of a purplish color is because it's to work off the yellows that I'm using for the highlight off the trees, since purple is a complement. So it's a complementary orangey yellow. They'll work off each other. You see, I'm actually adding a little bit more yellowish orange. Let me add a little bit more crimson to this mixture. This is the mixture I'm making right here. Add a little bit of crimson to warm it up. So I'm just going over, just keep glazing colors on top of others, just to give it that afternoon sundown here. Let me add more white to that same mixture so that the colors will pop a little bit more. Let me see if this is enough. See how that color popped against the purple up there? There you go. Yes, this is actually working out. A little bit more white. Right here. Now I don't have to get all that detailed, but here, that's fine. And you know what? One last thing and I'm done. I'm going to give some shade below these tree lines here. So I'm going to mix a wash of ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt umber, and a little bit of Indian yellow. A lot of water. I'm just using a wash, and I'm dabbing my finger. Actually, I should make it more blue, really, since it's in shade, right? It's going to be a little bit cooler, so let's use a little bit more blue, although you won't be able to see it that well. A little bit more. Maybe a little bit of white to show. Let me see. Just to make it look like grass. So I'm just using the edge of my brush, and I'm letting the hair kind of spread as I'm pushing this color in there. So just to make it look like blades of grass. Here, give that to you. And then after this, I believe we are done. There. And one last trick. I'm gonna bring the grass a little bit up here. Let me give it a little bit of highlight, because I'm not too satisfied with how it came out. Hold on. Nothing you can't fix. Watch what I'm gonna do. Make some of the grass go above there. There you go. Make it look a little bit more natural. It's like showing little high grasses right in front of that shade. And since I have a little bit more on my accentuate some of this grass a little bit more. Now I'm just really playing, that's all I'm doing. And the reason why I'm making this brush a little bit taller to reach up is to show you that distance, is to show you distance, because this is so close it'll be taller, and this is further, it's gonna be smaller. So this is just basically a visual to show you that something is at a distance. There you go. And I think that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if I didn't get to answer your question, I'm going to go look through all the comments and see if there's something you wanted to ask. And I will try to answer your questions accordingly. Oh, wait a minute. You know what? What would this prairie be without a couple birds back here? There you go. And I could add more trees back here if I want. I know I said I was going to be done, but apparently I just want to keep playing around. As if. Let's give these trees back here some trunks. There. So it gives you some indication of big trees back there. Dab with your finger. If the color is too strong, dab with your finger. It'll tone down the intensity. There you go. Now you got distant trees. And I could add some more here. But, like I said, you want to keep the painting simple. So now, little signature. And we can say, I am done. So, I barely looked at my reference photo. At one point I just went with whatever I felt worked for the painting. There you go. I hope you guys got something, learned something out of this. I did this video just so, I did a couple paintings just like this. This is just as an example to show you the process, how I do the grass, how I go about, and to show you a few tips on how to use your brushes and not to be a prisoner to your reference photos. And as well, I showed you glazing techniques, how to glaze, how to go over color, how to make pockets of colors here and there using the glazing technique, of course, how to cover your whole canvas first so you don't see any more white, and how you could add darks over your glazing work just to, and how to fix issues when you have a problem. So if I have not answered your question, go ahead and ask, and I will go through the comments and I will try and help you the best that I can. I hope you all enjoy this video, and I thank you very much for taking this time to watch, and I'll see you next time. Hopefully the next time I have another video, it's probably going to be on the seascape for you and acrylics. I'm going to try to do a 9x12. I'm working on something, but either I'll let you know or you'll be able to see it, as an impromptu. Whenever it comes to my head, then that's when it's going to come. Thank you guys. I will wish you a good day. Bye-bye.